All right, now continuing with our conic sections, let's talk about parabolas. So a parabola is a set of all points in the plane that's equidistant from a fixed point called the focus and a fixed line called the directrix. So the distance here is the same as the distance here. So that's true all the way along. The distance here is the same as the distance here. Now, the distance from the origin to the focus, or from the origin to the directrix, if we call that value C, so we're putting our center at 0, 0, and the focus up at the point 0, C, and the directrix back at y equals negative C, then our equation is x squared equals 4cy, where that C is that distance. Now, a couple of things. Notice this parabola is either opening up or opening down. Whenever the x is the one being squared, the parabola is opening up or down. If the C is positive, it opens upwards. If the C is negative, it opens down, like so. If the y is being squared, then I open to the right if the C is positive, and I open to the left if the C is negative. All right, so I am opening up because the x is squared and this is positive. I am opening, notice that the y is squared here and this is negative. So I'm opening to the left. So let's do each one individually. The 4c is the 8. Divide by 4, we get c is 2. So I go up 2 to get to the focus and backwards 2 to get to the directrix. The directrix is an equation of a line, so it's a y equals. The focus is a point, so it's the point 0, 2. My graph looks like this. We draw the parabola through 0, 0, up 2 for the focus, back 2 for the directrix, y equals equation for the directrix. And then you can plot any other points by just plugging into the equation to plot points, like the 4, 2 and the negative 4, 2. All right, let's look at this one. So 4c is 28, so my c is a negative 7. So I go left 7 to plot the focus, and right 7, x equals 7, is the equation of the directrix. So I move left 7 for the focus, right 7 for the directrix, x equals is the equation of the directrix, the focus is a point, so it's negative 7, 0, and then draw my parabola opening around the focus with the directrix behind it. Again, you can plot a few more points by just plugging in some values of x into the equation and figuring out the y that goes with it. Okay. Now I want to write an equation for the parabola with a focus at 2/3, 0 and a vertex at the origin. Well, notice, let's, kind of sketch out here. If this is my vertex, and I'm at 2/3, 0, that means the focus over here. So I've got to open this way because we open around the focus. So I'm opening to the right. If I know that I am opening to the right, then my parabola is horizontal and the y is being squared. And the c is the 2/3. So y squared equals 4cx. So this is my equation. All right, so now I want to find the equation of one that has a vertical axis, vertex at the origin. Okay, so again, vertex at the origin here. And it's passing through the point negative 2, 12. So negative 2, 12 is a point on the graph. So it's got to go like this to pass through the vertex. So I've noticed that I'm opening up. So if I'm opening up, the x is squared and the c is positive. So x squared equals 4cy. Now, since I passed through the point negative 2, 12, I can just substitute that in to find the c. So this I'm going to replace with the negative 2 squared, and this c gets replaced, the y gets replaced with 12, so I'll have 4c times y. So go ahead and solve for c. We get c is 1/12. Plug that in. X squared equals 4 times c y. So my equation is x squared equals 1/3 y. Now, if I'm shifting left, right, up, down, I'm moving the vertex. So remember, again, our shifts are x minus h, y minus k will give me that vertex at hk. If the x is squared, then my parabola is opening up or down. And if the y is squared, then I'm opening left or right. Again, this 4c out in front of the other shifted term, the c part tells me how much I move from the vertex to get to the focus and the directrix. All right, so I want to graph this parabola. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in that correct form that x minus h and y minus k. Well, clearly the y term is going to be the 1 squared, so this is my y minus k squared term. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 2 over here and then multiply the negative 8. But when I subtract the 2 over, this becomes my x minus h term. So when I multiply this negative 8 to the other side, it's going to sit out front. And this becomes my 4c, is the negative 8. Okay, so let's set those pieces equal. So clearly the y-coordinate of my vertex is at a negative 3, and the x-coordinate is at a positive 2. So go to negative 3, down 3, positive 2 on the x, 2 through negative 3 is my vertex. Then the 4c was equal to negative 8, so divide by 4, we get c is a negative 2. So I go backwards 2 from this point, the vertex point, backwards 2 to plot the focus, and then the other direction 2 to get the directrix. So that puts the directrix at x equals 4, that line, and the focus here would land back on the y-axis, so it's at the point 0, negative 3. Then we can plot a few points to get the equation, to get the points that we're going through on the parabola. So, because we have the equation, so I can plot where y is 0 and get this point, and then keep going, okay? So, we want to write an equation for the parabola with a focus at 2, 2 and a vertex at negative 1, 2. Well, okay, if I look at that orientation, my vertex is at negative 1, 2, and the focus is at 2, 2. I open around the focus, so I know I've got to go this direction. So I'm opening to the right. That means that my y is squared, right? And the x is not, so it's x minus the negative 1 for the x-coordinate, and the y minus the 2 for the y-coordinate squared. Now, I need to know what goes here, which is the 4c. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the distance from here to here is 3 units. So that 3 units is the c value. So 4 times 3 is the 12 that we got here. So that's the equation of our parabola that fits that criteria.